Gentlemen, we are looking right here. We have figured out number one, that we have the opposite and the hypotenuse, and we found that the answer for how tall the kite is in the air is 184.7 feet. We're going to look at number two. I gave you guys some time to look at this. A ladder is leaning against the wall, so I know this is the ladder, is my hypotenuse right there. Okay, it makes an angle of 74 degrees with the ground. So it says ground, so I know it's this angle, not this angle up here, but this angle down here. If the foot of the ladder, so that means the bottom of the ladder is 6.5 feet from the wall, how high is the wall on the ladder? So this is my adjacent and this is my opposite. So now I know I use, if I look at SOHCAHTOA, I know I use tan. So that's tan is 74 equals the opposite over the adjacent, 6.5. I multiply both sides by 6.5. 6.5 right here in our equation. Okay, so I put that in my calculator. I put 6.5. I hit the trig button, which is right next to number 7. I hit tan. I hit 74. And I get 22. Stop. Stop having a conversation. 22.67 feet equals X. Okay. We're going to look at number 3. A straight road to the top of the hill is 2,500 feet long and makes an angle of 12 degrees with a horizontal. Find the height of the hill. I think this is kind of confusing because we think of roads as like a straight line.
20 is the hypotenuse?
But the hypotenuse is 2,500 feet. Okay? And it makes a 12 degrees with a horizontal. This is like if you look straight ahead, so the 12 degrees is here. Yeah? And we're trying to find the height of the hill right here. So once you have your picture, then you need, your second step is to label. We've got opposite and hypotenuse. I highly recommend don't labeling all 3 sides, just the 2 that you need. Okay? So I'm not going to label the bottom adjacent because I don't want to confuse me about which trig to use. If I have opposite and hypotenuse, do I use sine, cosine, or tangent?
Sine.
So I go sine of 12 equals opposite x over hypotenuse 2,500. I'm going to multiply both sides by 2,500. So 2,500 sine 12 equals x. I do want to point out that if you need to use your cell phone for these, like if you're at home, I said this yesterday, but some of you weren't here, so I want to make sure. So if I'm on my calculator on my phone, this is an iPhone, but the Androids are very similar. If I turn it sideways, I can see that the sine and cosine come up. Sine and cosine and tangent come up. Just make sure the RAD, that's for radians, is up, because if you push that, it's not in degrees, and that messes you up. And then you just have to work backwards. I go 12, and then I push sine, and then I times that by 2,500. And I get the same answer as I would on my other calculator, which is 519.78 feet equals x. Okay, we're going to do one more. Again, I want you guys to take a minute and try this one on your own. I think actually drawing the triangle is probably the hardest part. So please try this. An airplane climbs at an angle of 11 degrees with the ground. Find the ground distance it has traveled when it has attained an altitude of 400 feet. What does altitude mean, guys?
Height.
It's the height. It's straight up in the air. Okay. I'm just giving you a minute to write this down, so you should try to draw this triangle right now. You should silently try to draw this triangle right now. It's the last one we're doing together, and then the rest you'll do on your own. It's quiet time because you're trying this problem on your own.
Yeah.
If you've drawn your picture, you can label the sides opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse. I've got pens right there. Then you can figure out which trig function you use. And you can solve for x. Okay, do we need another minute or are we ready?
I'm not ready.
All right, so we've got a triangle. We know an airplane takes off like this, goes up in the air. It has 11 degrees with the ground. I know the ground is on the bottom. We're going to find the ground distance, so I'm looking for x. When the train has attained an altitude of 400 feet, that's how far it is in the air. Okay, this is my 400 is my opposite, x is my adjacent. So I'm going to go tan of 11 degrees equals the opposite 400 over the adjacent x. Remember, when x is on the bottom, we just can switch these. So we're going to switch tan of 11 and x. We get x equals 400 divided by tan of 11. We can also do this by multiplying both sides by x and then dividing by tan of 11, but it's just a quicker step. It's doing the same thing. So I'm going to put this in my calculator. 400 divided by trig tan 11 gives me x equals 2,057.82 feet. Okay, so real quick, I just want to go over the steps one more time. First, I would read the word problem at least twice. Read through it once. Second time, start to draw that right triangle. Figure out what where the angle is going to be. Which sides are they talking about, straight up and down, the hypotenuse, or along the bottom? Then I would label it opposite and adjacent and a hypotenuse, whatever two you have. Then I would figure out if you're using sine, cosine, or tangent. Then I would solve the problem, okay? If you have any questions, please let me know. The back is homework.